First established in the 1960s by the old station of RAF Winthorpe, the collection has been continuously growing and has taken on some more space and set up several hangars to house many of the smaller exhibits. Although mostly home to Royal Air Force and Royal Navy aircraft, there are some foreign exhibits here which you would not expect to see on British soil. My visit to the Newark Aviation Museum was on a very cold January day, and when I first arrived, because of the weather conditions, I did not have much expectation of getting any decent filming done. This was especially the case when some freezing fog arrived, and it almost felt like I was going to lose a hand whilst trying to film. For some of the exhibits here, that strange murky weather made them even more dramatic and menacing, and none more so than these two relics of the Cold War from behind the Iron Curtain. On arriving at the museum's car park, a selection of Royal Air Force classic aircraft are waiting behind the fence. The first exhibits are a twin-seat Gloucester Meteor T7, a BAC Canberra, and the iconic Avro Vulcan. A pretty common sight at UK aviation museums, Newark's immaculately maintained Vulcan can be accessed for a small fee. Going deeper within the grounds of the museum and passing a further example of the BAC Canberra, the large aviation subjects of the Royal Air Force keep on coming, with two much less commonly seen piston-engined aircraft. Whilst there are still a fair few examples of the Avro Shackleton maritime patrol bombers still in existence around the world, there are far fewer of the four-engined Handley Page Hastings. This large aircraft of the immediate post-war period served with the RAF well into the 1960s in the transport role, until replaced by more capable aircraft such as the Lockheed Hercules, and only 4 complete examples exist today. Opposite these are the first of the foreign aircraft that will feature in this video, being a French Dassault Mystère and a US Air Force North American F-100 Super Sabre. Being given a prominent position right by Newark's hangar that has its name displayed on it, is the first of the Royal Navy aircraft that we will be taking a look around in the museum grounds. This Blackburn Buccaneer is painted in a high visibility Royal Navy scheme, which was used before the camouflage changed to an overall dark sea grey. Other Royal Navy aircraft can be found not too far away from this one, so for the completeness of covering all of these subjects first, the museum also holds an example of the Fairy Gannet and the de Havilland Sea Vixen. These aircraft all date back to a time when we British could afford more than a couple aircraft carriers, not to mention designing our own aircraft. That said, I do think these two look less majestic when compared to their sleek US Navy counterparts from around the same time period. To complete the rest of the British aircraft on display outside, more of them can be found in the far corner of the museum's grounds, and as you walk towards them, you realise that this museum has plenty of scope as yet to expand and add lots more exhibits. First past is a third example of the BAC Canberra, this one being painted in an all-black scheme and fitted with an unusual pointed nose whilst serving as a test subject. There are then a neat collection of important post-war jets that have served the Royal Air Force, starting with a Gloucester Meteor night fighter, to twin-seat examples of the Hawker Hunter, the supersonic English Electric Lightning, and the Sepicat Jaguar ground attack aircraft. Either existing as twin or single-seat examples, there is usually at least one example of these aircraft to be found preserved at many aviation museums around the country. One of the only other American aircraft to be found at Newark Aviation Museum is the Lockheed T-33 Shooting Star. This small jet trainer of the early 1950s is actually a fairly common sight at aviation museums around the UK, as my home city of Norwich has one, and there are two to be found at the Midlands Museum outside Coventry. But now, it's time to move on to see something that is not common. Aside from Germany, it is rare enough to find a Russian-designed aircraft outside of an ex-Soviet state country as it is, let alone two of them, but that's exactly what they have here. One is a Mikoyan MiG-23, which was a fighter version of the swing-wing design, the museum's example being complete in an all-grey scheme with Polish Air Force markings. The other is the Mikoyan MiG-27, a design based on the fighter but for use in the ground attack role, and this has a two-tone camouflage scheme bearing the red star of the Soviet Union. These two aircraft are amongst the star attractions of the museum today, but aircraft such as these would not have been a welcome sight on British soil at all during the height of the Cold War. Just before stepping inside the actual hangars, the last outdoor exhibits are a row of cockpit sections, for those aircraft that could not be saved in their entirety, but at least the forward sections could be salvaged. With the outdoor exhibits now seen, it was time to move inside, both for the purpose of seeing more aircraft and also to give my hands some time to recover in the marginally warmer temperatures. This first hangar I'll explore here has a particular theme that stands out more than any other, and it's nice and bright and colourful. Royal Air Force trainer aircraft were for a while painted in a very smart looking white, red and grey scheme, and examples of the turboprop Jetstream, the jet-engined Hawker Siddeley Domini, and a single-engined de Havilland Chipmunk and Hunting Percival Jet Provost are held here. As if there weren't enough Royal Air Force and Royal Navy jets already on display outside, you'll find even more of them in here too. For more of a completed collection of classic aircraft from the 1950s, there are further examples of the Gloucester Meteor and Hawker Hunter, and a Supermarine Swift. There is also the Gloucester Javelin, Britain's interceptor before the English Electric Lightning took over, but a design that I've always thought was seriously lacking compared to the sleekness of the contemporary American F-102. The museum's example of the famous British Aerospace Harrier is the naval variant known as the FA-2, a modernised version of the earlier FRS-1 Sea Harrier that served aboard the rapidly diminishing number of Royal Navy aircraft carriers into the 1990s and early 2000s. A real odd one out here is one of the museum's prized possessions, an example of the Swedish Saab JAS-37 Viggen. This aircraft was one of several Viggens offered out to museums following the retirement of the type in Sweden, and Newark was one of the recipients of the available airframes. The last place I'm exploring within this video is the other hangar beside the Blackburn Buccaneer, and this one has much more of a random collection of aircraft. Pretty much anything that would have looked out of place elsewhere, or was small enough to fit under the one roof, has been placed here. But there are still some interesting examples too. Swedish-built aircraft are again featuring in this hangar, being an example of the Saab 91 Zephyr and the JAS-35 Draken, though both of these are in other nationalities' markings. The majority of other exhibits are of Royal Navy origins, including the Hawker Seahawk, de Havilland Sea Venom, and a Westland Whirlwind helicopter. Again, those 1950s jets just keep on turning up, as the hangar also holds de Havilland's twin-seat Vampire trainer and a Venom fighter. As you can see from this video, the museum is exclusively dedicated to post-war aircraft, though some World War II relics can still be found at the far end of the hangar, these being turrets, crashed wreckage pieces, and a fuselage section from an Avro Lancaster.
If you have enjoyed this video on the Newark Air Museum, why not leave a like and follow my channel for more, and I'll bring you many more air museums from around the world, as well as many other historical places of interest. However, until next time, see you around.